Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another live Q&A here on Trauma Recovery University. My name is Athena Moberg, and I'm an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I show up here every single week, normally with your incredible co-host, Bobby Parrish, and we educate and support and encourage the global community of adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So I'm flying solo tonight, and normally what would happen is I would be on the Twitter stream moderating everyone's questions and comments when Bobby is sharing and teaching and talking, and Bobby would be on the Twitter stream moderating and fielding questions and answering questions, the questions of our community of adult survivors of child abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse. And since I'm flying solo tonight, I'm doing kind of double duty, and I'm going to do my best to answer everybody's questions. And there's also a live chat feature over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Trauma Recovery University TV. If you happen to be watching this on a replay or on Roku TV, we are so excited that you're here. Down in the description section of this video, there is a link where you can fast forward to just the one-page teaching content, and you don't have to listen to everybody else's questions. However, I do say that tentatively and with a precaution, because sometimes someone else will ask the question that you wanted answered, and then you get the answer to the question that you weren't present to ask the question, but yet we give you the answer during the talking portion. And the Q&A portion of tonight's live Q&A. So if you are listening on a podcast platform such as iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, or even iHeartRadio, we are also so happy that you're here, and we want to remind you that this is a video broadcast. And we have a Roku television channel. You can find it super easy by searching the channel guide for Trauma Recovery University. You can find our YouTube channel very easily by looking for Trauma Recovery University. And you can also find us on Twitter at Athena Moberg or at Bobby L. Parrish. And you can also find us on Twitter at Trauma Recovery U. So welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here tonight. Every single week we show up with a different topic, and this week's topic is assertiveness. So what is assertiveness? What does it mean to be assertive? And what's the opposite of being assertive? Is it being passive? Is it being aggressive? Is it being passive aggressive? What role does passive aggressive behavior play in the healing or in the recovery journey of the adult survivor of child abuse? So without further ado, I am just going to go ahead and just begin answering some questions that I know came in this morning. We have 3 Twitter chats a week, the first one being this morning, and that's at #CSAQT, #CSAQT. You can read our Storify or the transcript of that chat. It's every single Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, or 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And that chat was specifically created for our UK family. So it's 6 p.m. there when we have that chat, and right now it's 2 in the morning for all of our UK family. So some of them are, I'm sure, here on the Twitter feed, and it's going to be really difficult for me to try to monitor the Twitter stream with you guys. So I might just sit back and do a teaching portion like I do sometimes when Bobby's not here with me. But I do want to just welcome you. And as always, every single week on the topic of discussion, we have a one-page downloadable resource that we offer for you, the adult survivor of child abuse, the listener, the viewer, the subscriber, just awesome survivor. It's free. It's always free. You can get access to our weekly downloadable by going to one of our websites, either traumarecoveryuniversity.com or nomoreshameproject.com, and you'll find a tab that says downloadables. If you click that, you'll be taken to an area where you can get immediate access for free of tonight's downloadable resource and our entire library of downloadable resources. There are over 200 hours of videos on our Roku TV channel and our YouTube channel specifically for adult survivors of child abuse. And you can also find other bonus interviews, interviews with different authors or different helping professionals, or people that are just in the mental health space, the mental health community, that are really, that have your back and just want to share with you information on how to be the most mentally strong and mentally healthy version of yourself. So I do want to issue a trigger warning. We are several minutes into our broadcast now, and we haven't jumped into the content yet, but I do want to issue a trigger warning. What a trigger warning is I'm just warning you that some of this material may be triggering for you if you live with PTSD or complex PTSD as a result of childhood abuse. You might not even know if you're living with any type of post-traumatic stress, but some of the content we discuss might cause you to feel queasy in your stomach, dry mouth, your palms might get sweaty, you might feel frozen in time or just not quite yourself. That could mean that you're triggered. And if that's the case, we want you to just step away and practice excellent self-care. Find a way to rest, to breathe deeply or not so deeply. Perhaps doing some quick, shallow breaths might actually help you in the midst of a flashback or if you're triggered. If you run your hands under some cold water, that's been known to disengage the hypothalamus and you're able to feel grounded much quicker. You can also perhaps suck on some candy or just find different ways to ground yourself. We want you to feel well, and we don't want you to sit through this video if you're not feeling great. We want this to be the most informative hour of your week. We want you to receive everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery, but we don't want you to be triggered. So if you are in immediate crisis right now, we ask that you please do not seek help on the hashtag. We ask that you reach out to professional helping professionals, and you can find some 24/7, 365 resources, really helpful resources online. You can go to RAINN, our friends over at RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. They have a 24/7 live chat feature on their website, and that's located at rainn.org. You can also, if you are a male, you're a man listening to this or watching this podcast, we have great friends over at oneinsix.org, and they use the same chat feature where you go into a virtual waiting room and then someone comes on and they're there to answer your questions if you happen to be in crisis. If you're in the United States, you can dial RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, at 1-800-656-HOPE. And we would love for you to just receive the care you need. We don't want you to just white knuckle grip your way through this video just because you want to learn how to be assertive. We would rather you wait till you're just in a really good frame of mind and you're in a place where you're not triggered, and then you can come on back to it. You're not going to lose access to it. It's not going anywhere. This is the live stream if you're tuning in live on a Monday. Monday, December 12th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, but the replay will be up shortly after this, and you can just come back to it. So if you happen to be in the UK because you can't sleep, it's 2 in the morning there, and you happen to be in crisis, I would love for you to reach out to our friends at the Samaritans, and you can go over to the Samaritans.org, or you can email one of their staff members who takes emails, and that's Joe, J-O, at Samaritans.org. You can also find them on Twitter, although they don't do crisis help on Twitter. And their Twitter handle is at Samaritans. So I don't have all of the fancy telephone numbers memorized that Bobby normally shares with you for all of our resources in Australia and Ireland and the UK. But if anybody out there watching, there are a lot of you right now actually. Okay, if anyone out there has the text numbers for people who are in crisis, if you could share the text numbers, that would be amazing, or the telephone numbers, that would be awesome. I really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being here, you guys. The topic of assertiveness is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's something I struggled with for a really, really, really long time. In fact, I still struggle to this day with assertiveness. It's not something that is my first language. It's not my native tongue. Assertiveness is definitely not my native tongue. In fact, passivity is something that is more of my native tongue. I would rather, 10 times out of 10, I would rather remain silent and not communicate my needs for fear of communicating them and then having them not be met. And either I feel humiliated or I feel hurt, or it just validates and confirms the fact that I'm not worth helping. So I'm definitely one of those people that would prefer to be passive. I've also been known in situations involving my son or someone that I love very much, I've been known to become very aggressive to the point where I've raged out at people. I've been extremely inappropriately angry, like disproportionately angry. And being passive and being aggressive, and in the scary middle, which is where most of the miraculous healing happens in our recovery journeys, in the scary middle is assertiveness. But please keep in mind that being passive or being aggressive or being passive aggressive, those are all things that everybody, like as we say, normals, anyone who's not an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse or childhood abuse of any kind, those are things that normals struggle with all the time. It's not just a survivor thing, you guys, kind of like imposter syndrome. Like normals struggle with imposter syndrome just as much as we do. But it's important to remember that passive aggressive behavior is not necessarily less damaging than being overtly aggressive. It's covert, but it's very aggressive, and it's never healthy. And I have been known to be passive aggressive, especially as it pertains to someone that I love dearly. And if I feel someone is encroaching upon them or going to harm them or upsetting them or overstepping their bounds with regards to someone that I care about. Notice that I say that it's not my second nature to be aggressive when it's about me. And this is something that's very, very much a survivor trait as well. This is common for normals, but this is very, very survivor behavior, like really clearly survivor behavior. And that is that if someone encroaches upon my boundaries or is doing something that might not be the nicest towards me, I'm not as prone to be immediately aggressive or even assertive. I'm more prone to be passive. And then as soon as it's with somebody that I care about, then all of a sudden I come out guns a-blazing. And I'm like, mama bear, like crazy, rawr. Like it, and both being passive and aggressive, actually all three, and then being passive aggressive, none of those are helpful. They're not healthy. They're not helpful. There is a time to be calm, but being calm is not synonymous with being passive. A passive response is not something, especially when talking about advocating for ourselves or advocating for others or advocating for change of any kind. It's if we are passive or if we are aggressive or if we are passive aggressive, it will not likely warrant the results that we want. We will probably not receive the help that we so deserve because our passiveness or our aggressiveness or our passive aggressive behaviors will not be well received by those we are aiming them at, because all three of those are not really a very helpful response when we're looking to generate change. If we want help with something, or if we want something to have a healthy outcome, it is usually the best choice to do the best we can to be assertive, which is why this broadcast exists tonight. Okay, so here we are, we're 15 minutes in. I know I haven't been able to be on the Twitter stream with everybody. Hey, if go ahead and perhaps send me a text if you can, Matt, and just let me know if there are any questions that I need to address, and I will. Otherwise, what I would love to do is I just saw someone who's here for the very first time tonight. His name's Derek, and I just want to say hi, Derek. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think this is your first time live with us tonight. Derek's wife is actually a new friend of mine. She's a new friend of mine, and she's amazing, and she's been attending some of our Twitter chats, and she is a survivor advocate. If you guys are not following her on Twitter, or if you are not following her blog, you should find her. Her name's Heather Tuba, and that's just Heather and then tuba.com, or you can find her on Twitter at Heather Tuba. So welcome, welcome, Derek, and I'm just trusting and believing that our entire community is just supportive of one another. Below this video, you guys, is a space for you guys to all advocate for one another. You guys can all share your best practices and things that you found that have been most helpful in becoming assertive. Oh, and before I forget, gosh, I hope you get this message. Kathy Bobathy, my friend, I am so sorry. Every week you post a comment, and every week I'm so grateful for you. And then sometimes you post the comment right in the transition between when we're doing all of the transcriptions and the annotations and everything, and then you end up having to repost your comment. So Kathy, I'm so, so, so sorry. Please just wait 24 to 48 hours and you won't have to repost anything. I'm so sorry. It's not that your comments are not important. At the bottom of every single video on this whole channel, there is a disclaimer that lets everybody know that we love you guys and we love your support here on YouTube, but within the first 24 to 48 hours, your comments get deleted, and sometimes I don't get them. So I would just love for you to know that you are important. Each and every one of you are important, and your experience here with us during Q&A is valid and it's important, and your survivor journey is one of purpose and meaning, and you're not here on accident. You're here on purpose. I believe that you have been brought to this channel to receive the support and encouragement that you have deserved your entire life. So thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for supporting one another over in the live chat box on YouTube and over on Twitter using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. I am going, oh, thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into our one-page content. I'm sharing a really neat article today by an author that I found, and I found him because Maggie, our research intern, has shared his work with me before, and his name is Dr. Leon. Oh gosh, I'm not remembering his last name. But I'm going to be sharing his work with you today because Maggie, our research intern, turned me on to his work, and I love reading his work. So I'm going to go ahead and share our one-page comment, or our one-page downloadable. Again, if you would like immediate complimentary access to this downloadable resource, you can go to any one of our websites, traumarecoveryuniversity.com or nomoreshameproject.com. Just find any tab that says downloadables and just look for the one that says assertiveness, and that's the one that goes with tonight's video. To share this with you all, and let me know if you guys could tweet it out and let me know if you could see it. Let's see here. I hope you guys can see everything. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Oops, I just got a message here. Oh, I'm going to come and I'm going to answer some of these. I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer the questions that I just got as soon as I finish the one page. So thank you so much for sending in your questions, guys. Please continue to send in some questions. I'm going to read this one-page downloadable because some of you are listening on a podcast while you're driving and it's not safe for you to read it. So I'm going to go ahead and read through it right now. In order to properly define assertiveness, we will take a look at two opposite ends of the conversational spectrum: passivity and aggressiveness. It is important to note when we have unresolved fear and anger from our childhood, we will tend to be more passive-aggressive in our adult interpersonal relationships. Passivity is most simply defined as not speaking out of fear of adverse consequences. Aggressiveness is best described as voicing negative sentiments without restraint or regard for their effect on others. In between passivity and aggression lies that scary middle, which is where a lot of the miraculous healing happens in our recovery journeys: assertiveness. When we are choosing to be assertive, we are intentionally asserting our thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs, while at the same time showing appreciation and respect for the other person's viewpoint. Assertiveness is the ideal compromise between the extremes of passivity and aggression. And here's that great quote. It's Dr. Leon Seltzer. You guys got to find him on social. I'm going to read this quote of his. It's important to realize that passive-aggressive behavior is not necessarily less aggressive simply because it's passive. Essentially, passive aggression is an indirect form of aggression, not necessarily a milder form of aggression. And again, that's a great quote by Dr. Leon Seltzer. He's written an excellent article, and it's talking about the article that I'm quoting him from today is all about the fear of rage, and passive aggressive behavior often comes from is left over from childhood. So he's written this excellent article, which I have referenced here today and on this downloadable, and matches up with today's live Q&A video. I really encourage you guys to read the full article and connect with Dr. Seltzer over on social media by clicking here. And if you click here, if you get access to the downloadable PDF resource, then you will be able to click that link. The link is clickable. I'm going to move on to the second paragraph now. When we grow up, as many survivors do, in a family which cannot or will not attach much value to our basic needs, our natural impulse to assert ourselves became suppressed. If, when we talked directly to our parents about our desires, we were derided as selfish or thinking only of ourselves, we learned that it simply was not acceptable to want what we wanted or need what we needed. Similarly, when we repeatedly received the message that we were a burden or quote unquote just another mouth to feed, we learned that if we voiced our wishes, we were endangering a parental bond already tenuous. The same is true when we received the message that we were an inconvenience or too demanding, or we didn't deserve whatever it was that we were requesting. And if our parents were outright angry with us, yelling at us whenever we straightforwardly expressed our wants or our needs, the very thought of continuing to voice them may have filled us with anxiety. Moreover, if we communicated our anger at their denial and their reaction to such assertiveness was scary or punishing, we would have learned to keep our anger strongly bolted inside. Stuff it, stuff it, stuff it away. Afraid to express that which would surely come back to haunt us. We therefore may have felt required to cultivate a certain attitude of passivity and acquiesce to whatever lesser role our caretakers chose to assign us. Any behavior felt to threaten the bond with our parents would need somehow to be eradicated. Of necessity, then, we would have to almost every time we would have to renounce many of our basic wants and needs. How could this not be the case when we felt criticized, attacked, maybe even rejected almost every time we asserted ourselves? It would likely have seemed that we had no choice but to give up what we wanted, or maybe even teach ourselves not to want whatever regularly led to our parents' denial or disapproval. Fundamental needs and wants, which symbolized our importance to our parents, never really disappear. They simply go into hiding. Fearing the repercussions of making our needs known, we keep them tucked away, secret from those who might be disgruntled by our asserting them. Because experiencing these wants and needs can itself get connected in our minds with parental disapproval or rejection, we may well feel it is safer to pretend our needs do not exist. And yet somewhere inside us, there is anger that our parents enough to make these needs the priority. So painful, you guys. So painful and so real. Basically, what Dr. Seltzer is saying here is, if I'm right here at the end of the paragraph, right at the pink lettering that says, "If you want to become more assertive." I'm just pausing right here to make some footnotes and comments. Basically, what Dr. Seltzer is saying here in this article, this is only a brief caption of the article that he wrote, which is so excellently written, and it puts it in perfect perspective. You guys, if we asserted our needs or spoke up for ourselves when we were kids and our parents responded with anger or with ambivalence or by ignoring us, or if they deemed us a nuisance, or they just pretended we didn't exist, or we were to be seen and not heard, so if we used our voice, then we got in trouble. Oh, you want to speak up about that? Then you can go do that 10 more times. Oh, okay, you want to say something that you need? You want to talk about something? Okay, well, if you want to speak up and if you want to be the big mouth, then you're gonna pay for it, and you get punished for using your voice. So, you guys, when we're little and we get punished for using our voice, even if it's for something very basic, I'm gonna go very basic in this description here, in this example, okay, guys? If you are a child and you have to use the restroom and you're with your parents and you let them know, I have to go potty, or I have to go to the bathroom, or I have to go pee, or whatever it is that you say when you're a child, and you get your head bitten off, or you get screamed at or yelled at, or you get in trouble because of a bodily function or something so simple as having to use the restroom, we literally go into a hiding. We go into our shell. We learn from a very young age that it's not safe to have needs, to communicate our needs, because our needs will not be met. We will just get in trouble. It will be met with something that is not what we want. So we learn the hard way, right? We learn the hard way. So you guys, this is so key. So many of us experience this. If you're watching this YouTube channel, this Roku television channel, it's because you're an adult survivor of child abuse, maybe even childhood sexual abuse. I want you to know you're not alone, and I want you to know that becoming assertive is a huge key to your recovery. Your life is worth living, and there is hope, and you just need to choose to be assertive. And even if it feels uncomfortable, it is possible. We have an entire community of people, thousands of survivors, healing together in different groups from like over 170 countries or something like that. It's crazy. So please don't suffer in silence. Please reach out, because you're worth it. Okay. Now I'm right here on the one page, and I'm right at the pink lettering. If you want to become more assertive in your healing journey, use these strategies. Here we go. Bullet point number 1, educate yourself. Learning about assertiveness, which is why you're here on this video, on this channel. Good job, high five. Learning about assertiveness will help you navigate the waters of healthy behaviors versus unhealthy behaviors. Bullet point number 2, professionals. Helping professionals such as therapists, physicians, clergy, coaches, and social workers can help you to see ways in which you may already be behaving assertively. And this can be very encouraging. Perfect example. During our first Twitter chat of the week, hashtag CSAQT, Simi mentions that when she was with her therapist, I don't know if it was recently or if it was a while back, her therapist pointed out to her that she was behaving in a very assertive way and like gave her kudos, like, hey, good job. You're being very assertive with me. This is really good. So anyone who calls you out in a negative way or berates you or guilts you or shames you or gives you any type of negative response when you simply assert yourself in a respectful and kind way, those are toxic people. That's a person that's not toxic but is behaving in a toxic way, and that's not acceptable. There's acceptable behavior and there's unacceptable behavior. If you are being polite and courteous and respectful and you're asserting yourself, communicating a need, and you are met with toxicity or rudeness or abuse, that is probably someone that you need to move out a rung or two on your safe circle. Your safe circle should consist of people who cheer you on, who champion you, who reflect back to you the love and the patience and the kindness and the health that you give so many other people. You encourage other people, you're kind to other people, they reflect that back to you, they're kind to you, they're helpful towards you, they encourage you. Relationships that are healthy are reciprocal. I'm getting off topic here, so I'm going to go back, but I just want to let you know, guys, like helping professionals that cheer you on and advocate for you and give you high fives and point out ways that you're being assertive, that's incredible. And if you can find a trauma-informed helping professional, that's even better, because they'll not only cheer you on and advocate for you and give you high fives, but if you happen to be triggered or you are disproportionately angry or raging because of something, they might notice, oh, you might be triggered right now. Let's try these strategies so we can help you to get grounded and perhaps not feel triggered. So I'm moving on to bullet point number 3. I went off topic there, my apologies. Bullet point number 3, practice. No one becomes assertive overnight. Please be patient with yourself. There was a thread in one of our support groups today. By the way, if you are in need of a support group, please, please, please go over to the About section of our YouTube channel and then follow those instructions and reach out to us so you can get plugged in. In one of our support groups today, there was a thread talking about, how do I love myself? Everybody says you got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. What is all this self-love? Like, how do you even do that? And my response was, there were tons of comments. There were like 15 comments or something. But the response that I gave was very simple, and that is, the first step, in my opinion, what worked for me is right here, right here. Be patient with yourself. Please be patient with yourself. That is one of the most rudimentary and basic ways you can show yourself love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Okay? So if you have a hard time with self-love and you really, really struggle with self-loathing, you don't like mirrors, you can't stand yourself, there's a lot of us that struggle with self-hatred, please start slowly and with baby steps and just practice being patient with yourself. If you find yourself tempted to rush yourself through something, whether it's through compulsion or habit or even necessity, pause and intentionally be patient with yourself. I promise you, if you can make that a habit, it will change your life in amazing ways. Moving on to bullet point number 4, empathy. Develop for others precisely the empathy and understanding we ourselves never received in growing up. When we do this, we feel more confident in being assertive. You guys, this is so key. As we show empathy and compassion towards others, we are, without even knowing it, we are modeling assertiveness to other people. Yes, it's easier to be assertive on someone else's behalf, but you're still exercising the muscle. You're exercising the muscle. Empathy and compassion outward towards another person, that's you being assertive. You're asserting and showing empathy and compassion. Now, sooner or later, you're going to be able to show that same empathy and that same compassion towards yourself, and you're going to become more assertive because it will cause you to feel more confident. Especially when people start pointing out to you like, wow, I noticed that you're starting to be this way. That's amazing. Okay, last bullet point. Other survivors. Talking with other survivors of child abuse lets us know we are not alone in our experience of feeling less than assertive or passive or aggressive. When we see others feel and think the way we do, we feel valid in our experience. Join in safe community with other survivors. You deserve to receive validation, acceptance, support, and encouragement. When you finally receive this, you will begin to heal and recover from your trauma at an exponential rate. There is strength in numbers. Choosing to be in safe community with others who have lived your pain will help you to feel stronger and less ashamed. We have free, organized, virtual, safe support communities where you can practice new skills and become adept at creating healthy habits. Learn how to get plugged into a free online safe support group for survivors by clicking here. And if you go over to one of our websites, either traumarecoveryuniversity.com or nomoreshameproject.com, and find the tab that says downloadables, you can get immediate access to this downloadable resource that I shared today, and an access to like hundreds, I don't even know how many, almost 200 one-page resources. They're just free, they're for you. Share them with anybody you know. And if you'd like, you can click right here. When you click on this downloadable resource here, where it says click right here, where it says click here, that will take you to the About section of our YouTube channel, where you can follow an easy 4-step process on how to get plugged into safe community, okay? If you would like to do so anonymously, what you'll do is you will create an anonymous Facebook profile, and then you will follow the instructions. So if you would like to show up in our support groups and receive the support you deserve by clicking here, you may. If you would like to do so anonymously so that no one knows who you really are, because you need to protect your identity, because your family happens to be toxic, or you have someone who's predatory in your life, then you create an anonymous Facebook profile and then click here. Then click here and then follow the process, the 4 steps that are mentioned there, okay? So I hope you guys could see that okay, and I hope that went well. I want you guys to know you're not alone. This is a process. Like we say sometimes, like we can't just wave a wand and like one and done. You know, being assertive is not something that just happens overnight, like we mentioned on the one page. I still struggle with being assertive in times that I should be assertive. It's not something that comes completely natural to me. It comes more naturally now that I've been practicing, but it doesn't come naturally just right off the bat. So I have some questions here, and I will do my best to answer your questions, as many as I can. My goodness, you guys are amazing. Thank you, by the way, to Matt over at Surviving My Past. Matt wrote his very first book, you guys. It's an ebook and it's a free download. Harriet, if you could pop up a little annotation here, I'll send you an image for Matt's new ebook. It's called Surviving Grief. And if you click here on this little link, it will take you over to survivingmypast.net, and you can get a free download. It's free forever, but everybody grieves. I feel like that REM song, Little Grace. Lucy was saying this morning, does anybody else think in song lyrics? I do. I just thought of that REM song, Everybody Hurts. So everybody grieves, guys. Everybody grieves. So if you click right here on this little picture, I'm going to have Harriet put up a little graphic right here of Matt's new ebook. You can get a complimentary copy of it. It's free forever. And there's like no catch. There's no Tupperware. There's no multi-level pyramid. There's nothing. It's just free. It's for you because he's in our community and he's awesome. And he's the one who's helping me moderate tonight. So Um, yeah. Oh, and before I forget, in fact, I meant to do this in the beginning of our broadcast. Happy 18th anniversary to Jack and Simi. Like, it's a party. They're here on their 18th anniversary. They're hanging out with us right now. You guys, we have the greatest community in the whole world. So happy, happy, happy anniversary to you guys. We're so grateful for you. I am going to try to answer some of these questions now. JG Garcia Martinez. Hey, woo woo, aloha girl. You're right over there. You're in Oahu. And I'm on Maui. She's my Hawaii. She's my Ohana. At work, I come across as very assertive, but now I cannot, but not I can relate to shutting down. I need to reread this. At work, I come across as being very assertive. But I think it's now. But now I can relate to shutting down and not defining boundaries personally. Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes this happens when we have unresolved inner child work that needs to be done. We, like Bobby and I will often say, like, our fully functioning adult Athena is adulting all over the place. Fully functioning adult Athena is doing awesome adulting today. She's adulting everywhere. But sometimes that inner child version of ourselves doesn't have, like, if we're triggered, if we're in low-grade crisis or we're triggered by something and we're stuck in something inner child, some sort of, like, whatever your biggest trigger is. A lot of child abuse survivors had one or the other was their abusive parent or whoever their abuser was. And chances are when they're triggered, that's the strongest trigger. So for instance, personally, I struggle with asserting healthy boundaries and maintaining them. But professionally, it's like I've put on this professional persona and I'm fully fine. Like, I'm not triggered or anything. I'm just in adult mode. But then I get triggered like into sort of child mode, and then child mode Athena does not know how to stand up for herself at all. She is silent. She is completely silent and doesn't know how to stand up for herself. So you're not alone, JG. You're not alone at all, JG Garcia Martinez. You can follow JG at JG in Hawaii. Kathy says, I think expressing normal wants and needs and even preferences is an important step for assertiveness. Absolutely. I 100% agree, Kathy. We usually have to be assertive when our boundaries and our rights are being threatened. Yes, absolutely, Kathy. Perfectly put. I used to dissociate when I was being challenged or threatened. This is big. Kathy, me too. Oh my gosh. In fact, I notice my clients doing this. I notice myself doing this. I notice loved ones doing this. Sometimes if they are challenged or they feel threatened, or even if the person that is challenging them doesn't mean it in a threatening way, they completely dissociate. They check out. They go somewhere else. Or what happens if they get triggered by something that reminds them of the way somebody else used to be to them, then they're triggered back to another state and they're projecting that person on you. And they don't even know they're doing it. So absolutely, Kathy, I completely agree. Kathy, I'm hoping that was Kathy Bobathian, that she got my message. I'm not sure. August is starting a new job. Woo woo. Yay, I'm so happy for you, August. It's hard to ask for help because I feel like a burden. Uh-oh, careful about this. I feel like a burden, but it needs to happen. It's like being assertive. Yes, August, when you start a new job, you do need to assert yourself and establish healthy boundaries and communicate your needs in a way that is assertive. And first of all, starting a new job has stress all in and of itself. Like, it's stressful without even trying. Like, just the very idea of starting a new job is can be stressful. It's exciting. It's good stress, but it's still stress. So I want to support you, August, that even though you feel like a burden, there is no one at that new job that thinks you're a burden. And if they do, they don't matter, because I'm telling you, you're not a burden. You're incredible. You're incredible and you're capable. You are such a capable, amazing woman. So I hope that helps, August. I'm right there with you. I struggle with that every single time I started a new job. I did, seriously. Trina says, how do we deal with aggressive people when our first response wants us to shut down? So if you guys are familiar with Pete Walker, thank you so much for the question, Trina. If you guys are familiar with Pete Walker, he talks about the 4 Fs: fight, flight, freeze, and then the 4th one, fawn. So there's usually a trauma response type, and he categorizes them. And for instance, many of us survivors, adult survivors of childhood abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse, our trauma response type is freeze, fawn, which means we freeze in time and we shut down, and then we try to reason our way through everything. We try to reason our way through everything, whether that's in placating someone, doing whatever it is they need us to do, explaining our way through something, moving towards that person in a non-boundaried way. Our boundaries are out the window because all we care about is pleasing that person, because we think that if we please that person, then our abuse will not continue. That's a freeze, fawn, or a really good definition of fawn. Trina, with aggressive people, when our first response is to shut down. The best way that I have handled aggressive people when my response type is to freeze is I sort of, like, before I step into a situation, like when I'm leaving my house. I know this sounds really a little bit woo-woo, and I'm not very woo. If you guys know me at all, I'm like pretty rock solid in my faith, but this sounds very woo. So before I leave my house, I sort of psych myself up a little bit, and I give myself pep talks, and I really assert myself and encourage myself to be fully functioning adult Athena. Like, I'm going to be out there adulting all over the place. I'm going to be doing so good. And I sort of have that mindset. But if someone catches me off guard and it's sort of like a ninja trigger and someone's being super aggressive, I try to just breathe my way through it or pause. And I honestly have journaled my way through this ahead of time many times, because I hit this experience, Trina, so many times that I had to journal about it. And in my journaling about it, I journaled what would be the best possible solution to doing this. And I journaled my way through, like, the best possible scenario of how I would handle somebody that was being overtly aggressive. And so, like, if someone's being aggressive with me, I'll pause and I'll sort of channel my inner, like, I have a certain gal that I follow online. Her name's Ash. And she's very sassy. Like, she wears her sassy pants every day. I don't wear my sassy pants every day. Like, I should, but I don't. But I sort of channel my inner Ash sometimes. Like, what would Ash do? Like, how would she stick up for herself? Like, I'm sorry, excuse me. That sounded rather aggressive. Did you intend for that to be aggressive? If I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is this, but it sounded very aggressive. And I try to be really respectful or respond in a respectful way. What can end up happening for me, though, Trina, if we're all being honest here, I can come across as being kind of a biatch. Like, I come across as being a little passive aggressive, and I don't mean to. It's just that I haven't exercised that muscle enough. I'm more passive and not aggressive. And so if I try to be assertive, it comes across as passive aggressive because I haven't exercised that muscle enough. So just keeping it real. Like, I'm not perfect, but I would first of all, I would journal out. If you know that you have a tendency to freeze when people are aggressive, I would journal out your ideal response of, like, the highest version of yourself. If you could redo every situation, if I could redo a situation when someone was aggressive with me and not freeze, this is what I would do. And I would read that until it became, like, committed to memory. And I would practice that in safe community with other people who know that you're practicing healthy skills and healthy traits. Like in one of our support groups. I know you're in our support groups. So can you guys please let me know if these answers are helpful for you? I don't want to turn off the broadcast 30 minutes from now and then not have answered your questions. So let me know if these questions, if my answers are helpful to your questions. I would love that. Oops, I lost you. Where did you go? Whoops. Dang it, I had my finger on there to try to hold you still, and I moved it. Here we go. Marianne says, I have been guilty of passive-aggressive behavior. It was a method of revenge and an outlet for anger when dealing with a narcissist. Amen, sister. High five. Yes, I just lost you. I need to keep my finger on this. Dang it. Yes, I have been guilty of the same, Marianne. I have most definitely been guilty of the same. And all I can tell you, Marianne, is that it gets better over time. It gets better each and every time we assert ourselves, each and every time we use that muscle. Assertiveness is a muscle. I tweeted that out earlier. If you guys find my tweet that says assertiveness is a muscle, find it, use it, repeat. Like, retweet that baby. I'm telling you, that helps. I know it sounds so simple that we could just skim over it like, oh, sure, assertiveness is a muscle. Like, no, but you guys, there's power in that. Seriously, think about muscle memory. When you develop a healthy habit, how do you develop a healthy habit? By doing it over and over and over and over again. Like committing. You have to commit to doing it. So if we're going to be committed to being assertive so that we're not passive and we're not aggressive and we're not passive aggressive, if we choose to be in the scary middle, which is where the magic happens, it's where the miraculous healing happens so often in our healing journeys, then we're going to need to practice. We're going to need to commit, okay? So I hope that's helpful, but I've done the same thing, Marianne, seriously. It is so sad that survivors have to pretend that their needs don't exist. Sad and wrong. Grrr. Yes, I totally agree, Heather. Again, I read this and I go, uh-huh, grrr, because I'm thinking of my survivor family, my peeps, all you guys watching this channel. When I think of someone doing you wrong or you needing to pretend your needs don't matter because of the way you were treated when you were little, I feel angry. I feel angry, like aggressively angry at whoever did that to you. And just the injustice of it all pisses me off, seriously. But when it's me that we're talking about, not so much. I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. Moving right along, right? Like the same doesn't apply for some reason. I wish it did, but practicing it all. Oh, Joey says, I was always told that I don't deserve anything. I still feel that way as an adult. Okay, Joey, I know you, girl. And I'm telling you right now that that's a lie. You do deserve good things. And it's a hard habit to break, feeling that way and believing. Okay, this is something super powerful. This is something super powerful that happened to me about 16 or 17 years ago. I'm going to tell it to you. Joey, this is for you, Joey. Looking right at you, Joey. I'm telling you. You have the ability and the power to choose to accept information or reject it. Isn't that amazing? I know that sounds ridiculous for me to make a big deal out of that, but I'm telling you right now, when I realized I had the ability to choose to accept or reject information, to not receive everything as truth, oh my goodness. It was life-changing for me. Like, I was always told that I didn't deserve anything also. And I was told that I was ungrateful and that I was a lazy ass and that I was annoying and that every word that came out of my mouth was meaningless drivel. I didn't even know what that, I thought that they were saying dribble. I was like, I'm not even dribbling. I didn't understand what they meant, but drivel is like pointless chatter or something, you know, if you Google it. But right here, it was an adult, like Googling drivel. Like, what did that even mean? But I believed those things to be true about me. I believed it because someone that I loved and who was supposed to be raising me in a healthy, awesome, amazing way and having my best interest in mind, said those things to me, said that I was ungrateful, said that I was a lazy ass, said that I was annoying. Annoyingly chipper, I think, is what I've been called. And which I might be. Okay, that one's probably true. I am annoyingly chipper. But not everything that comes out of my mouth is meaningless drivel. But the moment I figured out, like 16 or 17 years ago, Joey, that I could receive information as truth or reject it as something that I didn't immediately receive as truth, the world changed. The world changed. Now, mind you, this channel is for adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse or any type of child abuse. When you grow up in an abusive environment, you don't really know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And those of you who happen to be watching or tuning in or finding this video and you're not an abuse survivor, the struggle is real. We don't know what's true and what's not true because we've been filled with lies. Our head's been filled with lies our whole entire life, that we're worthless, that our feelings are invalid, our experience in this world is invalid, we're annoying, we're lazy, we'll never amount to anything, we're only good to meet other people's needs. We've been told some shit and we believed it all. We just gobbled it up. We just gobbled it up. We gobbled it all up and swallowed it as truth, and it's living inside of us, and it's the tape that plays constantly in the back of our heads 24/7, 365, the gift that keeps on giving. So you want a recipe for how to destroy a human soul? I just gave it to you. You can rewind and listen to the last 3 minutes, because it's soul destroying to have someone you care about tell you over and over and over and over again from the time you're little, even if they only said it once, that tape continues to play. If it lands, just lands just right, that tape will play and it will drown out the voices of every other tape, all the good ones. So I'm telling you, you got to delete those old tapes. You got to replace it with the truth. And the only way to do that is to choose that you want to know what the truth is about yourself, and choose to not receive every piece of information that somebody else tells you as true. Question it. Question it. Don't just gobble it up. Pause and go, is that true? Huh. I don't think that's true about myself. Like healthy boundaried individuals that were raised in healthy families, if someone were to say to them, you're a selfish brat, you're lazy, you're annoying, they would look at you and they would say, no, I'm not. You are, but I'm not. But so often, many of our survivor friends, our peeps, those of you on this channel, you believed it. You didn't have the courage to say, no, I'm not. So I'm going to say it for you. No, you're not. So Joey, you're not alone. Okay. I lost where I was at. Oh my goodness. Oh no. I hope that helped, Joey. I know you were told that you didn't deserve anything, but it was lies. Lies, 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 lies. Shy Sharon says, growing up, when being assertive, I was told that I was selfish. Yep, I was too. That's in our one page. But you know what? You're not selfish. You're not selfish. You're looking out for your best interests, and practicing self-care and being assertive is not selfish. That's the truth. What you were told was a lie. Lucy says, how do we deal with people who do not cope with our new assertiveness? Those sound like people that may be toxic, perhaps abusers, enablers, or complicit family members who sat by and watched the abuse happen, or even people who have grown so accustomed to doormat version of Lucy. I say continue to assert yourself. And if they don't cope well with your new assertiveness, then perhaps they don't deserve to be in your life. Perhaps you can move on to people who do cheer you on and want what's best for you. And I'm telling you what's best for you is to be respectfully assertive because you deserve it. Hopefully that helps. Marianne says, I tried to assert today and I chickened out. I've done that. I've totally done that, Marianne. You're not alone. I have the right to ask, but I don't have the nerve. Bingo, Athena. Patience to learn. Yeah, just being patient with ourselves. Being patient with ourselves is so huge. Because when we chicken out, it's easy for us to shift into a shame behavior, right? Like to shame ourselves for chickening out. But it's natural for you to chicken out. It's totally natural. Being assertive is not our native tongue. It is a second language. It's like learning how to speak German or Chinese, Mandarin, Portuguese, Italian. Pick a language that you don't know. And that's what being assertive is. It's a muscle you haven't used. Kind of like if you haven't been to the gym in like a year or two, and then you go, you might say something in jest, jokingly. You might say, ooh, I found muscles I didn't know I had today. Because you'll be sore in places that you like have not been sore in a really long time. And that is kind of what being assertive is like, you guys. When you're assertive, you're going to be sore in places that you didn't know you had. You're going to use muscles you didn't know you had. So I hope that helps, Marianne. You're not alone. But patience, patience, patience totally helps. Shy Sharon says, I have always been afraid of becoming enraged with anger, scared to let it all out or any of it, scared that I will explode. So I stuff. Yeah, you're not alone, Sharon. That's what many of us do. In fact, the one-page downloadable, there is a link to an article that Dr. Leon Seltzer wrote, and it's all about the fear of raging. And we're basically taught as children when our needs aren't met that we don't matter. And so we stuff our needs and we stuff them and we stuff them and we stuff them and we stuff them. And when you stuff your needs long enough, they don't go away. They just sit right under the surface until something triggers them, and then they all come out. And if they aren't met, then we rage out and our anger is disproportionate to the situation. So the only way to get past this is to practice in safe community. And there are some tips down at the bottom of the downloadable that will help you. Being in safe community, practicing, journaling, educating yourself on assertiveness, and I just think honestly being patient. I think being patient is just so, so huge. I hope that helps, Sharon. Lucy says, I find sometimes that other survivors don't understand my inability to cope with the pressures they do. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes other survivors who may be farther along in their recovery journey than we are, they're just like, what's wrong with you? Why are you sad all the time? Think about happy things. I was abused too, and I'm not depressed all the time like you. But I have a word for those people, and that is everyone's recovery is different. Everyone has a different recovery journey, Lucy. So those survivors that don't understand your inability to cope need to understand that everyone's survivor journey is different. No two people will have the same journey. We can recommend and suggest and help, but the most helpful thing any survivor can do for another survivor is to be patient and kind and non-judgmental and just hold a safe space for the other person. Educate yourselves on what people might be going through. There are some survivors that don't live with PTSD. There are some survivors that don't live with complex PTSD. There are some survivors that don't live with autoimmune disease. There are some survivors that don't live with depression. There are some survivors that live with all of those at once. And if they're having a little bit rougher of a day than you are, be kind. I think the answer is to be kind. The overall answer to everything in our survivor community is be kind. Kindness goes a long way. I hope that helps, Lucy. Dominique, huge struggle. I got angry once when I was 17. I love that Dominique's only been angry once in her whole life, when she was 17. I so relate to you, Dominique, all the time, every time. Yeah, I got angry once when I was 17. She says, Dominique says, I'm 30 now, and I'm just embracing that anger is healthy. Yeah, anger is healthy. And she even puts in parentheses, not rage. Rage is never healthy, you guys. Rage is never an appropriate response. Rage is never healthy. Rage is uncontrolled anger, usually turned outward, sometimes turned inward. Regardless, always unhelpful, never okay. Having appropriate levels of anger about the unjust situation you've been put in, the injustice of it all, the fact that you were abused and you were treated poorly and you were invalidated and minimized and re-traumatized, and then somebody at church where you go and ask for prayer tells you need to go forgive them right away. Like, it's just a recipe for disaster and anger. And I'm telling you, it's going to take some time. And if you are in leadership in a church somewhere in planet Earth, and you are in the habit of responding to abuse survivors immediately with, well, your problem is that you haven't forgiven them, then you are doing everyone a disservice. Because abuse survivors first need to have someone listen compassionately. They need to have their experience validated. They need to, for the first time in their lives, sometimes address their own wounds and their own hurts and the things that they have not even ever had the opportunity to experience or feel. Then they need to feel safe. And then once they feel safe and valid and human, then they can take the steps forward if they're choosing to forgive, because they want to be set free and they don't want to live in bitterness and have someone living rent-free in their head and be imprisoned by someone else's things that they've done to them. But it is in their own time. And you're doing them a great disservice if you are telling them right off the bat, you were abused, well, you need to forgive them immediately. That will make you all better, because that's not the case. Unless you have walked a mile in their shoes, which I'm assuming you have not, you are doing them a disservice. Okay, sidetrack. I do that quite often. I get on my little church soapboxes where I start preaching from my little YouTube pulpit over here, and it's highly annoying. Grace says, I got mad once and bad things happened. It is just not safe to get angry and be assertive with anyone. That is such a common feeling, Grace. I want to let you know that you're not alone. A lot of abuse survivors feel this way. I just want to encourage you to try and be patient with yourself, because that will help. Just try. In safe community, you're in our safe support groups. Our support groups are a perfect place to practice new, healthy behaviors. But you got to make a choice to do it. It's an act of the will. Whether or not you feel like doing it is up to you. But trying is an act of the will. You make a choice, you do it, and then maybe the feelings will follow. But if you don't choose to try in safe community, I'm not saying go out and try in the world and then get like your head bitten off and then retreat and then never try again. I'm saying in the safe support groups that we have, if you were to try and let people know ahead of time, hey, I'm asserting myself for the very first time here, I could use some encouragement in our safe support groups. And just practice in private, and then it will help you. I'm hoping that helps, Grace. JG Garcia Martinez says, yes, but we are silent no more. Mahalo, girl. Here, my Ohana in this community is my strength. Oh, yeah, you have a big family now. You have a family in 170 countries now. There's a lot of us. So you have a big Ohana, and we're so happy that you're here with us. Super duper duper happy. Shauna on YouTube says, I go into fight instead of assertive when I get challenged. Any tips? Ooh, this is a hard one. You know, honestly, this happens to me sometimes. And the only thing that I can say that helps is patience and just breathing through it and slowly trying. Just slowly pause. If like I have to tell myself this over and over and over again. If I get into the position where I'm all of a sudden like trigger happy, not trigger like I'm triggered, but like trigger happy like I want to like blow up at someone, it's like my first response, I'm finding that that's like what I'm doing, then something's not right. Like I'm triggered, I'm living in low grade crisis and I don't realize that I'm not grounded. But I tell myself, when in doubt, pause. When in doubt, pause. And if I pause, I'm never sorry. Like sometimes I even ask the person, I'm sorry, could you please repeat yourself? Or I might need to talk with you in just a few moments or something. But I'm never sorry if I pause. I hope that's helpful, Shauna. Deshawn says, people have told me they can see me shrink into myself, so to speak, during confrontation. I guess that's me dissociating. You know, Deshawn, it could be dissociation, but it could also be your flee response. We don't have to physically flee to flee. And dissociating is definitely fleeing, but like if you shrink into yourself, you are, I guess it's just you, I guess it is you dissociating, but it can also be like you're afraid or you're freezing. Like when I shrink into myself, I'm not always dissociating. Sometimes I'm freezing, like I literally can't move and I don't know what to do. I'm just like, you know, I don't know what to do. I'm like frozen. So it could be you dissociating for sure if you know that you're prone to dissociation. I'm not as prone to dissociation in conflict anymore as I used to be. I'm more prone to freeze. So it would be whatever your typical trauma response type is. I highly recommend, I know you probably already have this book. I think you even have mentioned it before, but Pete Walker's book on complex PTSD from surviving to thriving is super excellent for situations like this. Journaling, imagining, and practicing assertive answers is a therapeutic technique. It is rewriting your script. Absolutely. I highly recommend doing that. When you journal out and you find the highest version of yourself and you write out how you wish you would have done it, you're rewriting your script. It's something that I do quite often, and I need to, and I have to reread it sometimes because like not often is that highest version of myself where I'm actually in a safe place and I'm actually writing out my thoughts and feelings. It's not often that version of myself shows her face, because quite often I'll be living in a triggering environment, or I'll be dissociative, or I will be freezing or fleeing. I'm a freeze flee most of the time. When I'm in a healthy interaction with someone, I'm a freeze flee. And if I'm in an unhealthy interaction with a toxic person, I'm a freeze fawn. So I'm pretty self-aware, like I know what my trauma responses are, and I highly recommend becoming really aware of what your trauma responses are, because it will help you understand yourself better and not judge yourself, and it will help you to heal. August says, I feel like I just try to diffuse the situation and then I apologize for everything, even when it's not my fault. Oh, girl. My husband, I've told this on other broadcasts, but I'm telling you, August, my husband was in another room on the other side of walls and closets, like in the kitchen. I'm in my office. He was way over there in the kitchen. Something fell and broke, and I literally came out of my office and I said, I'm sorry. I know that elicits some laughs, apologizing that something broke in the kitchen when I was in an entire other end of the house. And the struggle is real. If you're blamed for everything or been made to feel from the time you were little that your existence is a nuisance, you begin apologizing for everything, including breathing. Or if people break things in another room and you're not even there. Or you'll go to someone's house and like they'll say, oh, it's so hot in my house right now, the air conditioner's broken. And I'll say, oh, I'm sorry. Who does that? Me? Okay. Oh my gosh, there's still so many of you guys here. I'm running a little long. I gotta end this broadcast in the next 6 minutes, folks, just so I can keep you on time. Lucy says, what do you do when your needs don't matter to others or even really yourself? you try, you practice, you journal, you write it out, you decide to not believe the lie. Whoever told you that your needs don't matter, whoever these people are, and you decided to gobble up the lie and swallow it as truth, you're going to need to choose to believe it's not true. I mean, you can continue to believe it's true even though it's a lie, and that's not going to serve you. It's not going to help you. But you have to choose to believe that it was a lie. And then you have to learn the truth about yourself. And you guys know I'm a woman of faith, and where I go to learn the truth about myself is I read my Bible. So for instance, I have all these tapes in my head, right? I have all these tapes in my head. I have the one back here that's like, you know, one of my abusers saying like that every word out of my mouth is useless drivel, or that I'm a lazy ass, or that I'm ungrateful, or that I've even within the past few years, people in our community have said that I talk too much, and that I don't talk for any other reason other than just to hear myself talk. And I believed it to be true, and it really hurt my feelings for a while. But now I know that they were just being unkind and perhaps projecting their stuff on me. And in all actuality, sometimes I talk out loud because I'm thinking things through, and I don't know what it is that I'm trying to say. But I can't ever remember just talking to hear myself talk. That's kind of an asinine thing to say about someone who runs support groups for abuse survivors, because I don't really like to hear myself talk. I'm here healing in public with you guys because I'm choosing to feel the fear and do it anyway. It takes a lot of courage to get on camera and heal in front of everybody. So I chose, this is for you, Lucy. I chose to take whatever those people were saying about me. I even recently this year had a colleague tell a whole bunch of people that I'm a psycho, I have a lot of mental issues, and that I am going to crash and burn, and I'm going to take everybody out with me, whoever's nearby. A fellow mental health professional say that about me. And I swallowed it and believed it to be true for a minute. And I kind of had a bit of a meltdown about it. Like, wow, is that really true? Like, I realize I'm not 100% mentally healthy, but who is? And I'm working on my junk. I've been working on it for a while. I mean, I've been through a lot of shit, and I'm really doing my best. But I don't feel like I'm going to crash and burn any minute and take everybody out with me. Like, what does that even mean? So I had to question that. And I had to choose to not believe the lie. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. In fact, those tapes still play sometimes, Lucy. But I have to choose to look instead. I have to look to God's word to see what he says about me. He says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made in his image. He says that I am good. He says that his good thoughts about me outnumber all the sands and all the seas and all the beaches in all the world. God says that I am blameless and spotless and clean. God says that when I look to him, I am radiant and that I will never feel shame. He says that I'm redeemed and that I am safe and that he's my rescuer and my redeemer and my defender. And he says that he has a future and a hope for me, and that his plans for me are good, to prosper me and not to harm me. That's the truth. For that little moment that I was sharing that with you, I wasn't listening and hearing those people's voices who say, Athena just talks to hear herself talk. She's going to crash and burn and take everybody out with her because she has issues. She's ungrateful. She's fat. She's ugly. She's clumsy. I didn't believe those lies for a minute while I was telling you what God says about me. So there's a real-time example of what you can do. Isa New says, I've forgiven many times before and still abused again and again. Forgiveness isn't always the answer for healing. Again, yeah, I have to echo what she says here. Forgiveness is a choice, And it isn't always the perfect answer. In fact, the perfect answer has many layers. And when we are dealing with abusive, predatory people, forgiveness and reconciliation are always two different things. When you forgive someone, you release your need to punish them, and you're releasing your need to change the past. And when you're experiencing reconciliation, you're reconciled to that person and you're back in relationship with them. And they are two different things. Like, for instance, I have forgiven my mother, I've forgiven my father, I've forgiven all of my abusers and enablers. And sometimes I have to re-forgive them when I have a little tinge of bitterness that sprouts back up and just wants to take over my whole brain and And so I have to re-forgive if I want to, which usually if I am choosing to just release it, I'm releasing, for me, in my opinion, when I am forgiving, for me, that means I'm releasing my need to take revenge on them. I'm releasing my need to change the past. I'm not condoning it. They're still abusive assholes. I'm not condoning their behavior, but I'm releasing my need to take revenge on them. And I'm releasing my need to change the past because I can't. But will I ever be reconciled to them? Hell no. Likely not. Depends. Not everybody deserves to hang out with us. Not everybody deserves to be in daily contact with us. Not everybody deserves to be able to show up at our house, send us text messages, call us, email us, send us direct messages, contact us on Messenger, be friends with us on Facebook. Not everybody deserves those things. In fact, I will go out on a limb and I'll end this broadcast, land this plane, and put a nice big bow on this and say, if people on your Facebook feed and that are your loved ones and people who consider themselves to be your family or your friends, if they're the same people that are tearing you down and causing you to question your sanity, or they're being unkind or abusive or overtly just rude to you, or a host of other different horrible things, those might not be the best people for you to be friends with. Those might not be the best people for you to be in daily contact with. I realize you can't delete your family in real life, but no one says that you are obligated to answer every text, answer every phone call, respond to every post, like every comment, respond to every direct message, respond to everything. Like, no one writes the rules for life in social media. They just don't. As far as I'm concerned, God wrote the rule book. And what it says in God's word is that I'm supposed to honor my mother and father. It doesn't say honor your mother and father if they're cool and if they're nice to you and if they met all your needs and didn't abuse you. So I'm called to honor them. Now, do I honor my mother and father by texting them and calling them and showing up and hanging out and allowing them to continue to abuse me? Not really doing that right now. I'm choosing to be assertive, and I'm choosing to care about my mental health. And I'm choosing to establish and maintain healthy boundaries by not allowing everyone to communicate with me in ways that they want to communicate with me when it is detrimental to my mental and emotional well-being. So I don't answer every text, and I don't respond to every direct message. I don't like every post, and I don't allow certain people to be friends with me on Facebook or to show up at my house or to call me. And if they want to think badly of me, that's okay. I'm not being rude, I'm being assertive. So I encourage you, survivor, to do some inventory and surround yourself with people that care about your mental and emotional well-being and who truly appreciate you and accept you for the awesome person you are. And if you're running short on those people, then you can friend me on Facebook. I don't have the fancy screen shares that Bobby normally has, so I can't share those with you right now. But I will let you know that you can email directly anytime, 24/7, 365, nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. Or if you just want to get connected on Facebook, go over to the About section of our YouTube channel. Just search for Trauma Recovery University. And there's a 4-step process on how to get connected with us on social. You can follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active. And my Twitter handle is @AthenaMoberg. Or you can just Google me, Athena Moberg. And you can go to my website, athenamoberg.com. You can leave me a voice message if you want. I have a little app on my website where you can actually leave me a voice message. And I try to respond to everybody. Oh, and there were a couple of other messages that were typed out messages that were sent to me on my website recently. And somehow they were scrambled up, like they got corrupted, and I couldn't read them. So if I haven't responded to you, I sincerely apologize. Please send it again, or just send me an email at nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. So I'm 5 minutes over. I sincerely apologize. I'm super grateful that you chose to spend this 90 minutes on live Q&A with me tonight on the topic of assertiveness. And I would love to answer any questions that you might have. Next week's topic is spouses of abuse survivors. So it's especially for if someone is a spouse of an abuse survivor, or if you're a survivor and you have a spouse, it'd be a great one to invite your spouse to maybe attend, or even send them the replay link after it's up, like 24 to 48 hours after the live broadcast. We have 3 chats next week. I'm not sure if all 3 chats are the same topic. Our first chat is at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. That's #CSAQT. Second chat is this one right here if you're tuning in live, and that's #NoMoreShame. And then there's the video component, of course, which you're watching. And the third Twitter chat of the week is the original sex abuse chat, which was started by Rachel Thompson of Rachel in the OC and our very own Bobby L. Parrish. So, and that's Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So next week, we have a very special guest with us that will be answering questions and sharing some wisdom with us on what it's like to be an advocate and a spouse of an adult survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Her name is Heather Tuba, and she's been here on our Twitter stream tonight, and she's been a member of our community for several weeks now, and I'm super excited for her to share her knowledge with you. And again, if you are not already subscribed to her blog, you can find her at heathertuba.com, HEATHERTUBA.com. But next week, on the 19th of December, 2016, spouses of abuse survivors will be the topic. And I'm super excited to just have Heather share some knowledge. And I also have a very special list of helpful tips and tricks and strategies for navigating the waters of marriage when both spouses are adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And I have 2 people who are contributing to that list. Our very own Simi, who is at Wave Mistress, and our very own Jack at Jack Lumen. And they have been so kind as to send over a list of helpful tips and strategies that have helped them get through 18 years of marriage, both of them being adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So I will share that, and then Heather will also be sharing, and I'm very, very excited. So thanks for spending this 90 minutes with me tonight. I'm Athena Moberg, and I love bringing you everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery. Thank you for tuning in to live Q&A. I'll see you next week.